Hello folks, Brian Lowry, CEO and founder of Stoneway Financial, and I'm here to talk about leveraging your nest egg tax-free. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to use a product that you need to write down, okay, if you haven't heard of it, is an indexed universal life. That's what we're going to use to do this. Index universal life. Commonly known in the industry as an IUL. Now, for purposes of this video, I'm not going to get into a huge amount of detail on this. Well, actually, there's another income comparison that'll break down some illustrations on this. But this video is just going to go over these two things specifically, leveraging the cash that's inside that policy and how to make it tax-free. So let's go over that real quick. So first off, you need to know a couple things. Number one, you got to have at least a 10-year time horizon to get this baby off the ground, okay? Number two, you got to have at least $100 a month. So, and if you're a little bit older, maybe you're in your 40s like me, you're in your 50s or 60s, probably $100 isn't even going to be enough. So you'll run an individual illustration with an agent and they will tell you what you need to do to fund this. Number three, you're going to have to qualify medically, which means that you can't have cancer and a bunch of things going on right now, okay? They're not terribly hard to qualify for, but you do have to qualify medically because it is part of a life insurance contract. But I'm going to show you why you should still take a serious look at this, because this is one of the most fantastic ways to leverage a nest egg in the future and not have to pay taxes in the process. Okay, so let's go through this real quick. I had an example of a real estate investor who had put over $1 million into one of these funds. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, Brian, I don't have $1 million. I understand that, but I want to illustrate how this leveraging works straight out of the account, okay? So there's $1 million in cash value inside this account, okay? Now, also, he had $1 million at that point in what we call cash surrender value. And cash surrender value is the amount you could cash the policy in for, okay? So before after 10 or 15 years, before you start drawing money out, the cash value and the cash surrender value will be the same. They will not continue to be the same once you start to draw money out. So in this particular example, our real estate investor, he took out $250,000 to buy a piece of real estate, buy a little house, okay? Now, maybe you've heard of these stories, but he bought this, he was going to rehab it, turn around, sell it. Guess what happened? He bought it, he couldn't rehab it. It had major structural issues. I don't know exact issues, but anyway, he wasn't able to put it back on the market, and he ended up renting it. So he had borrowed this money from the policy. He had this liability out there. And for a lot of us, we'd go, man, that's a lot of money. $250,000 is a lot of money. But let me show you how this policy works. I think this is fantastic. Okay, first off, this is a collateralized loan. So his cash surrender value would have dropped to $750,000. So if he surrenders the policy, he's already got possession of this $250,000. He's going to get the $750,000 that's left. But here's the weird thing about these policies. When they look at the interest, they're going to calculate his interest for the end of the year or the end of the anniversary based on $1 million in cash value, not $750,000, because the money actually hasn't been technically removed from the policy. It's still there in the cash value when it comes to calculating out what your returns are going to be inside the policy. So you'll love this, okay? So in 2014, okay, decent year, that he took the money out right at December of 2013, so he had all year 2014 with that money outside of the policy. Okay, now his cost for borrowing the money was 4.6%. 4.6%, that's how much the loan cost him to take this money out. But here's the interesting thing. His cash value earned a 14% return. 14%. And you got to understand something. This is an index policy, so the floor is 0 and the ceiling is 14%. So the policy will only return somewhere between 14 and 0. If the market's way up, it's going to give you 14. If it's somewhere in the middle, it's going to give you whatever that middle number is. But if the market goes way down, you're going to end at 0. So 0 is your hero in this particular case because, man, if my neighbor's getting a negative 40% and the S&P 500 is just falling through the floor and I got a 0, hey, 0 is great when you're comparing it to negative 40. So anyway, back in 2014, if you look at this, he had a net return then of 9.4%. So he made, correct me if I'm wrong here, he made 9.4% on this $250,000. So over $20,000 in interest was credited where? Credited both to his cash value and to his cash surrender value. So if he doesn't pay this money back next year, he's still going to have an extra $20,000 over here plus whatever the interest is that the rest of the million got, right? I mean, so obviously 14% of $1 million is $140,000. That's not bad, okay, in index crediting. Minus, there's some cost to these, minus some cost for the policy, and of course he's got to pay the cost of the loan itself, 4.6%. But here's the other interesting thing. What taxes did he pay for the $250,000? Nothing. That's right. Tell me where you could stick, let's say over a 8, 9, 10, 15-year period, where you could stick $1 million and then start taking income from that. So you stick the $1 million in, it's tax deferred, you don't pay any taxes on that money, it's growing, you're not paying any taxes on the growth, and you can pull money out and not pay taxes on it. Now, if he dies, okay, this is a self-completing plan, because if he dies, whatever the death benefit is, and if he's got $1 million in cash value, guarantee the death benefit's going to be quite a bit higher than that. Maybe it's 1.4 million or 1.3, 1.5, something like that. But his beneficiaries are going to get the $1.3, $1.4 million minus his loan. Okay, so they are going to take that out of it. But there's something big there. So even if you start one of these plans and you're in your 30s or 40s, like if you're in your 30s or 40s right now, it's gonna take you a while to get to $1 million. You're gonna have to stick some serious money into these things, okay, and get this thing going. But I tell you what, it'll be worth it. If you've seen some of the other videos about taxes, you wanna compare the taxable or the income after taxes. So there's another video where we compare incomes. Really, really important, because the income after taxes tells you how do these things compare. So if you're pulling money out of a 401k, an IRA, or something like that, and then you're pulling money, in this case, you're leveraging money out of one of these policies. How does it compare the income? Now, here's one other thing I would tell you, that you can support a much bigger withdrawal rate out of this policy, because over time, as you draw your cash surrender value down, your cash value is still increasing, and at some point, it's going to get to $2 million. And I'll show you an illustration where one of them does just that. And if you were to take 14% of $2 million, you have $280,000 in excess cash value. You see where I'm going with this. So even if you're averaging a rate of return of 7%, and I have several companies that over the last 20 years have averaged over 7% with this index, okay? So if you're averaging over 7% of 2 million, again, is 140,000. So if you're only taking out 75 or 80,000 plus even the fees and the policy, you're overcoming that income. But you can actually withdraw a fairly large amount out of these policies. And we're going to show you some illustrations where we make the case for that, and you'll see that you can pull some significant income from these policies. And the biggest thing is, all of it is tax-free. Thank you.